Before I even get started, because I create my paintings on canvas unstretched, I like to lay them out and just put the wood on top of it just to see how I'm going to size my piece and where the painting will end up laying once the canvas is stretched. So I do that, I take my measurements, write them down, and that is my first step before I start cutting wood. Place the first angle at 45 degrees because we're going to put two 45-degree angles together to create our 90-degree corner. I usually cut all the ends first, about 1 inch or 2 inches in from the end of the wood, and then I flip them over, mark my measurements, and then I cut the actual piece of the frame that we'll be using to stretch. Once I have them all cut, I lay them out, I get my Gorilla wood glue, my brad gun, and I start gluing the corners together, and I usually fasten with 2 to 3 brads in the corner. When I'm putting my brads in, I usually do opposite. So if I do the top of the frame on one side, I do the side of the frame on the other, just to create better structural integrity of the frame. You can also use screws and pre-drill holes, and then use a drill and screws for your corners if you don't have an air gun or a brad gun. Now we are going to create our corners. So I use the scraps from the original cut pieces of the frame, lay them out, kind of figure out where I want to measure these, and then I cut the 45 at the flat end of the scrap. Once those are cut, I place them in and see how they're going to fit, and then using the wood glue and the brad gun, I glue each side, and then I put a brad in each side as well. Again, if you don't have an air gun, you can pre-drill holes and put screws in. The reason we use corners is so that when you're stretching the canvas, you don't create dips or bends in the frames, and so it just adds more strength to your side walls of your stretcher frames. Our last step is our center brace. So the area where there is the most room between the corners, we'll put a center brace in there, which will be just 2 flat cuts. And that just enhances the strength when you're stretching the canvas. Again, you don't want to create dips in your wood or bends. You want it to be as flat, straight sides as you can. Once that piece is cut, center it on your measurements, put wood glue on each end, and stick a brad in each side. And there's your first canvas stretcher frame. Congratulations. Now for the harder part to learn, stretching your canvas. Once my frame is cut, I always like to lay the frame over the back of the canvas and just tape it around, or use wall pins to do the same, especially with the diptych. This way you can make sure that the centers line up. Once you have your frame lined up, turn it over, and it's time to start actually stretching your frame. So when you're stretching canvas on a stretcher frame, it's almost like putting a car on a tire. You want to work in a star pattern. So you start on one of the strongest sides where the center brace is and put your first staples in. Then you work to the other side and you pull it tight and you fasten your staples. Then you move over to one of the top or bottoms, stretch that good and tight, put your staples in, and then move to the other side. You can see I'm using canvas stretchers, which you'll definitely want to get a pair of those. You can use your bare hands, but then you'll just have nice raw fingers. Once you have your 4 corners, you start going and pulling tight on each side of the frame, working to each opposite side as you go. Just make sure with your canvas frame you're pulling it good and tight to ensure that there's no buckling, no wrinkles, or no dips in the canvas. You're working out towards the corners from the center out. Now for the hardest part, the corners. So you worked from the sides out to the corners, so you work from the center out. Now doing corners, it's almost like wrapping a birthday present or a Christmas present. You fold the first side in, and then the second side, you start folding a corner as you're folding it over. Put your staples inside, work to your next corner. See, I can pull the canvas real tight there in the corner so that that one side is folded over all the way to the corner. And then you start to pull that canvas, wrap it around itself, turn your corner, pull it so you have a flat, straight line. And you want to fold your corners over on the tops and bottoms. You don't want to do it on the side. That way, if you don't put it in a drop frame, your sides are not seen on the walls if you're just hanging a canvas. If you're framing it, it doesn't really matter because you won't see it. But you never want a big fold showing on the outside of your canvas when you're hanging it. One more time, you can see as I pull it tight, I already have a corner wrapped under, so I can fold right over both of them and keep a good straight line along the edge. You still want to make sure to use your canvas pliers so you can pull it tight, because one of the main places you may get a bend or a buckle in the canvas is going to be if your corner's too loose. There you have it. Stretch your frame with the canvas stretched over it. Good luck. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message, and I'd love to answer them and help you out more.